welcome to RealClearFetish Talks RealClearPlay, an Instagram live / podcasts kink chat about sober life, safe practices, and so on. Tonight we have David, but he will be logging on through Grey Fairskinn's profile because his own phone doesn't work. We've had a little bit of technical issues, but I think we're there. Thank you for coming on, David. So much for a simple lock-on, but it's what it is.
This is about the 5th time now we've tried to start this. I have to say a quick thank you to my boyfriend for lending me his phone, because apparently my one can't cope with Instagram lives. So, honestly.
It's what happens. Technology is a funny thing sometimes if it doesn't work properly. But should we just jump directly into it?
Yes, look, I've even got your questions written down for you. Okay, because I think that's the first question, isn't it?
Yeah, names, pronouns, and title. What do you prefer I call you?
What do you have your questions written down on? Is it a piece of paper? Oh, I knew you'd have something like technology in front of you.
Yeah, I had another phone.
Ah, this would explain it. Hey, you can have my phone if you want. It's no good at Instagram, but it's fantastic for everything else. Names and pronouns. I don't generally subscribe to pronouns as such. However, if I did, I guess I would be he or him. People have called me much worse over the years, but he and him, I think.
So your name
is
David.
Wait. I've got the next question for you. That's right, isn't it? Yes.
The next question is, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, a little bit about myself. Well, oh gosh, where do I start? I have just notched up my first year sober from drugs. I previously managed 2 years, and due to various difficulties going on in my life at the time, I threw all of that hard work away. So I had to start over. And earlier this month, I clocked up my first year again, and it felt just as special as it did the first time around. I described myself, for your publicity words, as a leather rubber daddy, apparently. So I guess I'm one of those too. I love my fetish very much. And it's great rediscovering it, but outside of using drugs now. So it's all good.
Fantastic. And completely sober, clear-headed, or social drinker?
Oh, social drinker. I was going to have a little drink off to the side here on my desk. And I thought, oh no, I better not, just in case. And now I'm wishing that I had one, to be perfectly honest. It's been so stressful at this interview. It's stressed the crap, Ralph. It stressed the crap out of me.
Well, that's not the point. We'll see if we can get you relaxed again. It's
yes,
just
please.
It happens, technology, and it's we'll just move on from there. It's perfectly fine.
We'll just pretend it never happened.
Let's pretend it never happened. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. And last question: what is ClearPlay to you, and why is it important?
Oh, ClearPlay to me is hugely important because, sadly, I discovered kink and fetish inside of drug usage. So I never really discovered it outside. And I'm very quickly learning that sober play is hugely more connective and very much more enjoyable as well. You do have a connection with the other person that you don't have when you're flying high using meth or whatever your drug of choice is. It's just better sex, basically. It's it's more connective, and that's why it's special to me.
So you say you just celebrated a year sober. Congratulations on the year clear of drugs. That is amazing. And I will also, a little bit of a callback, and also to give you a bit of credit, you mentioned you threw out the 2 years. You still
Yeah.
have those 2 years. I think it's very important for people in, like, with drug issues and so on. You can have a stumble, you can have a relapse, but the work you put in those 2 years are still there. You just had a stumble and you picked yourself up, and now you're back to a year. So those 2 years are not lost. I will give you that.
Thank you. It certainly felt at the time, I chose to lose my sobriety again. And I think for me, the thing that I learned from it was how much your mental headspace, how much that has an effect on your ability to stay sober, and also your reasons for being sober in the first place. I think the first time around, I didn't really know it at the time, but I think I was probably doing it for other people in my life, not necessarily me.
Mm.
And the problem was that when those people were not there anymore, I felt that I didn't really have any need to continue as such. So this time around, I've had to learn from what went wrong originally and
Mm.
adapt it into a way so that I'm sure that it doesn't happen again. And this time, I'm very, very much doing it for me. You know, and it's the right reason. It's the only reason to do it. You know, if you're doing it for somebody else, maybe that's not the right reason. You know, you have to feel as if you're doing it for you and not for somebody else.
At least not when I talk to other recovering addicts, and sometimes your recovery has to be, it sounds wrong to use this word, but selfish. It has to be about you. You have to do
Yes.
it for yourself. And in some cases, if it is really messy, you have to step away from some of those people to fix yourself first. And then you can
Oh
go
God.
in and
Yeah.
apologize or make amends
Yeah.
to people you might have hurt down the way. But at the start, there's just no space to make amends to other people or keep sober for other people.
It's very true. I couldn't agree with you more. You have to take some time out uh, to fix the damaged bits of yourself. And in 2021, which is when I returned back to using meth, there was a lot of hurt there and a lot of bad headspace stuff going on as well. But you know, it was just a case where I quite literally just kind of woke up one morning and said, okay, this can't continue. It's no good for me. It's no
Yeah.
good for me personally. It's no good for me on a professional level. People aren't necessarily getting to know the real David either. They're, you know, getting to know some other version of him. And I'm in a good place right now. I feel I feel okay about things. In fact, actually, no, I feel better than okay about things. This is probably the happiest I've been in my life for years. I feel far more stable with my life choices and everything, and being clear-headed helps with that hugely, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned, for example, you discovered kink or fetish in drug taking. That was kind of part of your story. How have you found splitting those two up? So, because I know from myself and personal experience, it took a long time to split it. But then again, I had kink beforehand. How did you figure out how to navigate that in a healthy way, and also figure out what was the drug taking and what was actually you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've discovered that drug taking for me was essentially just amplifying everything that was already there.
Mm.
So I have a disgustingly filthy mind. And I I do enjoy my sex on the dirtier side. Drugs were just basically amplifying all of these things that I already felt. But the problem is that once you get a drug like meth latch on to all of your dark sex secrets, it just unleashes them all. It takes away all of your inhibitions. So what I've had to do, I was really worried actually at one stage when I stopped using drugs that I wouldn't be able to have the kind of sex that I wanted to have. It was a real worry. I know that sounds really stupid to say that, but I was worried that I couldn't do it. But by playing with the right people, I think that's important. Playing with the right people in a trusting environment with people that you can trust, and usually sober, clear-headed people. You're obviously on the same wavelength as them, and you're thinking more sensibly. I This is going to sound strange as well. I had to reprogram my head to do things without. And then eventually I just discovered, oh, okay, I can still do this, and I can still feel really kinky and in all of this stuff and have great sex, but without using. And it's such a liberating experience. You come from something where you feel that all is lost, everything's lost, and then all of a sudden you think, oh no, actually I can still do this. It's a great feeling. And as I play more with a clear head, I'm just enjoying my sex more and more and more. Of course, it helps if you've got a really nice boyfriend to have sex with. It's all I'm saying.
Well, that
He's
does
probably in
help,
my
yes.
bed.
And I know who you're.
He's probably in my bedroom now, smelling my underwear or something, I should think. I'm sure he is.
So.
He probably is, actually. He's probably got one of my gym jocks strapped round his head by now.
So, how did you actually? How did the drug taking start? What brought? Was it just an occasional party use, or was it just something that happened?
Oh, it was. I was just getting fetish, leather in particular, and I was in my 30s, i.e., yesterday.
Yeah, of course.
Roughly yesterday. That's all. no. And, you know, like everybody, you're curious about what certain drugs do and the enhancement that you get from using them. And I'd heard about meth, and I can remember chatting to some of my friends saying, oh, you know, what's it like to use? And, oh dear, the first time I used it, well, that was the start of my downfall. It just latched onto all of the little mechanisms in my head that were just eager to get out. It just took away all of that inhibition, all of that worry, and that was it. I just kind of, it just stuck, and yeah, difficult stuff. It's a really pernicious drug, is meth.
It
You're not
definitely is.
aware.
Definitely is.
You're not aware of what it's doing, quite literally, until it's too late. And even sometimes when it's too late, you still can't stop. It's a difficult drug. It's a difficult one to break away from, but it is possible. You can do it for sure.
It requires some patience and a lot of work and so on. What is there any specific situation that kind of went, do you know what, I need a change. I need to stop doing this. I know a lot of people refer to like their rock bottom, but was there anything particular that kind of made you, I need to change my life?
Well, I suppose the first time that happened, Ralph, was 7 years ago. I arranged to hook up with some guy off of a particular website, which will remain nameless. And there's nothing unusual in that. You know, we all do it. And I set off to this flat in North London where I thought that I was going to have this fantastic evening of meth and debauchery. And I got something else altogether. I discovered that the guy had web streamed me, not only taking meth, but at that point I was slamming meth. And he'd caught all of this on webcam. I had no idea all of this was happening. And people got to see that recording that shouldn't have done. Quite a lot of people. And that changed my whole life. You know, you see a David now that's able to talk to you via a phone camera, that kind of comes across as being not necessarily terribly shy, even though he really is. That incident changed my whole life. I practically disappeared off of the scene, off of everywhere. I wasn't meeting people. I kind of, my friends that I had at the time, I chucked them all away, just pushed them away. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I had a terrible fear of these things, phone cameras and any camera. It was a psychological, I'm going to swear, Ralph, you're going to have to cut this out.
No, you're allowed to swear. It's an adult
Hey,
podcast.
yeah,
People are allowed to
yeah,
swear.
It was a real fuck up. It really fucked me over in many ways. And that took me a long time to recover from that, a long time. There were so few support groups actually as a gay man that I felt that I could turn to and go to for help with that. Because there's a lot to deal with there. You know, after all, you're talking about the invasion of your life. You know, why on earth would you want for, you know, why on earth would you want, you know, your friends or anybody else knowing what you do in your private life? You know, you don't. So when that happens, it's a real head fuck, and it takes a lot of work to get your head around that. I did get some help with that. I reached out to a woman that operates a website called Victims of Image Abuse, or as it was then, Victims of Image Crime. And I told her about what had happened to me. And we developed a good friendship. And she helped me a lot to pull me back from that. And years later, I just turned that negative experience into something a bit more positive, to get help for, more help, that is, for the LGBTQ community and non-consensual image abuse, as it's called, or non-consensual image recordings. You know, I can guarantee during this live, there will be some guy out there who doesn't know that he's being streamed by another gay guy. You know, it happens a lot. Some people seem to deal with it better than others. Yeah, so to try and improve that situation, I became an advocate for that subject for a while. And I put in a lot of work to try and make sure that there are more support resources out there for guys who are involved with chemsex and have been caught in a situation similar to mine. So there's a lot more out there now than there used to be.
I want to thank you for sharing that. I could visually tell it was making you slightly uncomfortable to talk about, because you're reliving something that's quite traumatic in your life. So I'm very pleased that you feel comfortable to share that with us, and I really hope someone listens to this and hears some of your story and kind of go, oh shit, I'm not the only one that this has happened to. Because I would say that type of stuff goes hand in hand, and it sounds, I know it's just a recording. It's not just a recording, it's a violation of your privacy. It is almost on the page of rape.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I once described it as mental rape. And it's not too far away from being that exactly. It's an absolute violation of your privacy and your right to privacy. And it's still a big problem. In the UK, our laws have improved a wee bit to deal with those who perpetrate those acts. There's still a lot of work to do on that subject. But yeah, it's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to come on and do this. The first one is a little bit of a pay it forward, as they say in the States, to say thank you to you, Mister, for all of the work that you do as an advocate, as such a strong advocate for sober fetish. There, as far as I'm aware, there's no one else out there that does what you do. And it's such an important resource to have that, which is why I'm so pissed off that people keep on complaining about your profile and getting you locked out, because it's such a useful resource for guys like me to have, and for every other guy that follows you. They might just be interested in kink, or they might be interested in saying, okay, I want to do away with the drugs. All of these guys can do it. I think Instagram kind of lost the plot a little bit with all of this, because that's how I view your profile. It's a really important resource for people to have. So my message to Instagram, if you're watching, is please buy me a phone that actually works with Instagram. And the second message is stop blocking Ralph Rasmussen's accounts, you bastards. Stop it.
For anyone listening to this on the various other platforms, I'll give a little bit of background knowledge to what David is on about. At the moment, right, I am on my backup Instagram account, because my main Instagram account, where I have primary all my videos, all my lives, all my followers, has been blocked 3 times this year. It is currently still blocked for violation of community guidelines. Their community guidelines states that your profile can't be sexually suggestive. The fact that my site is a kink site and it deals with fetish and so on, but I'm fully clothed. I don't do anything lewd on the profile.
No.
But the problem is, saying something is sexually suggestive is open to interpretation. And I have noticed in the last couple of weeks, dozens of profiles are being closed down, deleted, and they just vanish. One of my good friends, Brew, has lost his account this week as well. He's had to reissue his whole platform. I also think I'm out of luck with my old profile, and I will have to stay on this profile now. I hope to get it back, but it's still not up and running.
Ralph, I really hope that you get the situation sorted. Don't take this the wrong way, but your original profile is about as sexually suggestive as a custard tart with a cherry on top, which actually could be sexually quite suggestive in the right circumstances.
If you're into food sex, absolutely.
Well, yeah, depending on where the custard tart is at the time. I mean, if it's on, top of somebody's cock, that might make a big difference. I've seen profiles way more sexually suggestive than yours. So Instagram, stop fucking blocking people's fucking accounts. God damn it.
Yeah. It does feel a little bit like there's a witch hunt at the moment going on. There's 2 theories: that Instagram are now actually hitting down on the category sexually suggestive, or I've pissed someone off in my followers who keeps reporting me. But I think it's Instagram doing this. I couldn't imagine someone would be that petty, to be honest. But then again, the world is sometimes a petty place.
You'd think. There are some strange people out there. I mean, I'm one of them, to be fair. So, yeah. Hopefully you'll get your account back soon.
I hope so too. So after you've done like the advocacy and so on, what type of work have you done? Have you engaged with people who's been experienced this, or with being recorded without their consent?
Yeah, so I started a website called LGBTQ Image Abuse Survivors. And I should point out, by the way, that I'm a non-active advocate for the subject. The website is still very much there. But I started a website so that people could get in touch, and if they felt that they were able to share their stories. And indeed, one guy agreed to do that, and his stories are readily available on the website for anybody that's interested in understanding and learning that if something like that has happened to you, you are by far not the only person that awful event has happened to. There are many others. So, don't feel alone with that experience. It's been interesting talking to other guys who have suffered or been victims of the same thing. The pattern is usually the same, and in some respects, you get the impression that some of it is actually organized a little bit. I know that sounds extraordinary, but there is an organized pattern to some of these crimes, and guys who quite literally do, purposefully set out to catch you out, as it were, which is an incredibly fucked up thing to do, I think. What type of person wakes up of a morning and says, oh, I know, I'm going to ruin somebody's life by, recording them having sex with me or taking drugs, it's yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. I don't know what sort of person does that, but certainly not me.
It's always interesting when I see something, someone in the gay community who's done something awful or acted in a certain way. My first question is, were they on crystal meth? Not that I will never say that's an excuse for doing these horrible things, but I know crystal meth can get you to a point where you are doing things you normally wouldn't do, and it becomes very calculated. It becomes I kind of like it's the same way I describe my addiction is I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when I do drugs, because you know me as a sober person, I'm approachable, I'm a very, very nice person, but put me on drugs, I'm a right asshole.
I've never actually seen you on drugs, obviously, because you've been sober for many, many more years than than I have. I think, to be fair, we're all assholes when we've taken, drugs. We've all got the capacity to be. Some of us are bigger assholes than others, possibly. This is why, this is the other reason why I'm so glad to be rid of it. I'd really, I couldn't be happier that it is no longer in my life. Oh God, it's the most destructive thing that I think I have ever subjected myself to. And I use those words because it was my choice to take it in the first place. Nobody made me do it. It was my choice to do it. So it's the most destructive influence that I've subjected myself to. It's just, you never know when to stop either with it. It's not until, you wake up the next morning and you look down at your cock and it looks as if somebody's stomped on it about 12 times. And it and you kind of think, Jesus God, what was I doing? It's
the amount of chafing after a weekend like that. Oh my God.
It's as flat as a pancake. Your foreskin looks like a balloon. It's just like you don't know when to stop. And there's no connectivity with it at all. But yes, your cock is quite literally screaming out at you, please don't shove me into another orifice. Okay, don't do it. Okay. You know, I'm already hurting. Don't put me in anything else. But that's what meth does, and that's why meth sex it's just mechanical. It's just mechanical, meaningless. And you don't need that drug to have the same sex. And the great thing is you wake up the next morning and you don't have a cock that look as if somebody stomped on it with a pair of grinders 8 times. It looks normal.
Well, there might be people out there that like that kind of thing. You never know. Being stomped on.
Some people pay good money to have their cock stomped on, so horses for courses.
Absolutely. So now that you're sober and you're enjoying your kink life, how are you finding like going to club nights or stuff like that where you might run into people who are on drugs? How do you navigate that?
It's been an interesting experience. One of the things that I promised myself was, as well as learning to have sex without chems, the other thing was, okay, so just because I'm not taking chems, I still want to go out. I still want to have fun. And I need to also learn how to be in an environment where mates or whatever might still be using. That's fine. I'm hardly in a position to judge everybody else, I actually quite, this is the other thing. I've discovered that David is completely able and is able to do all of these things. He can still have fun at clubs without drugs. I do love a little social drink, or lots of social drinks. Actually, I'm like the reincarnation of Judy Garland, almost. And that's enough for me. I trust myself enough to be able to enjoy myself, and I enjoy myself by being David. I used to pretend to be lots of other people to fit in, with whatever tribe I felt that I needed to fit into. And now I just don't feel as if I need to do that anymore. And if I'm just David, I can have exactly the same amount of fun. I said something earlier about how drugs just amplify all of the sexual interests that you want to do. It's exactly the same, I think, when it comes to club nights out. You think that you need them to have more fun. You don't. It's all in you already. It's all in you. You just have to trust yourself enough to let it all out. And that's the biggest thing I've learned about myself, or learned about David in the last year. Trust yourself. Trust yourself.
See, even at 5 years, sometimes I don't trust myself. But that is something I can be quite honest about. I always kind of if I go to a club night and there will be drugs around, I kind of have to question my intentions. Why am I going? Am I seeking out an excuse to relapse? And that's even 5 years in. I have to make myself accountable. I have to verbalize it. Either I verbalize it on here, I talk about these things because it is important. I think I mentioned probably in a previous episode, around my 5-year day, all of a sudden my brain just went, I'm going to hyper focus on injecting. I had like 2 weeks of that, and it was
Yeah.
horrible because like, what the fuck is this about?
I remember you mentioning it on your first podcast of season 5. You mentioned that you hit a difficult spot. I think it was in October.
Yeah,
last
it
year.
was around my clean time birthday, and
Yeah.
and I literally just didn't know what was going on. But I've also realized that you do go when it comes to recovery and so on, the craving, yes, gets easier, but it will be with you the rest of your
Yeah.
life. You just have to kind of keep it in check
True.
and question your
That's
intention
true.
sometimes. But that's fine.
So I have a question for you.
Oh,
So I know it's shocking, isn't it?
I know.
So in October, when you reached that difficult point, what was it that made you snap your head back and say, no, 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 no? You know, I've done my 5 years, and I do work towards my 6th year and my 7th. What was it that made you pull back from that?
Well, I've probably mentioned before, I have ADHD, so I hyper focus on things quite a lot. And in that period, I just hyper focused on that for some reason. Other times, I will hyper focus on my phone, or I'll hyper focus on a film, or something on Grindr.
Star Trek.
Say again, sorry.
Star Trek. Do you focus on Star Trek? Because I know you love your Star Trek.
Yes, I do. I hyper focus on Star Trek as well, and it's I think it's very much the geeky side of me.
Oh yeah.
Like birthdays, like clean time birthdays are always difficult, and I heard 1,000 times from other recovering addicts around birthdays or Christmas or your birthday, stuff like that can be quite tricky to navigate.
Yeah.
And sometimes your brain will put you through a loop. For me,
Yeah.
I kind of look at those 2 weeks, 3 weeks where I was struggling a little bit with my recovery and what that meant. And am I actually, there was one point I questioned myself, just like, am I heading for a relapse?
Yeah.
But that's quite honest of way of thinking and so on. But it was nice to, now that I'm looking back, it's nice to look back and kind of go, oh, I was tested and I got through it.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting you should say that. Everything, I think, is a test when you're trying to stay sober. Particularly when you're in environments that are very, drug based. It is a test. In fact, actually, all sobriety is a test. And I think for me, you learn something from each year. Each year, you'll encounter something new that you hadn't encountered. And you just have to learn on the fly to deal with whatever you've been presented with, whether it's somebody offering you something and then saying, no thanks. I've already had that happen a few times, and I've obviously said no, otherwise I wouldn't be with my first year again. But temptation is always there, particularly when it's presented to you by other people. But the strength is just saying, no thanks.
Yeah.
I don't need it. David doesn't need it. In fact, David's better for the experience of not using anymore. I think I think I'm way more likable.
Well, this is what we talked about. You on drugs, I can be quite an asshole. So yeah, I fully get that.
Oh dear. Yeah. Also, I'm slightly less smellier when I'm not using drugs, I've discovered. Although actually tonight that's not true, because I've got dreadfully smelly armpits for some reason, but I'm not quite sure why that is. I know.
Well, I can already say now that wouldn't be a complaint from me. The smellier, the better.
They're pretty whiffy, Ralph. Pretty
Oh,
whiffy, I've got to say. They're not nice.
it all depends on the guy and what kind of body odor he has. But in generally, if an armpit there's a bit of a whiff, there's nothing.
Oh,
And this is the best time for me here in London is traveling on the underground on a Friday and the builders are on the way home, because you can stand like this next to a builder with an armpit out.
yeah.
There's nothing.
So
Oh my God, I'm in heaven.
you can just like bury your nose in it, have a good old smell. The boyfriend's got pits to say, very whiffy pits.
Could you imagine me standing on a train, just my face first into this builder's armpit, and it's like, oh, it's a little bit crowded. It's like there's no one on the train. It's just no. I felt there was a bit crowded. Just making an excuse.
There's nothing wrong with a good man smell. You know, there's nothing wrong. You know, lap it up, breathe it in.
I don't need poppers. I just need an armpit. I'm quite happy.
Isn't that true though? Man smells are just like they're so sexually charged. You discover all this stuff, don't you? Stuff that you might not have quite have got the power of before. You know, we produce our own wonderful chemicals that, you know, that are there to be enjoyed. Man smells in particular.
So in drugs sobriety, is there any kinks that's appeared that surprised you, that you've relearned or you've discovered whilst you've been sober?
Yes. Whilst using, I used to be quite into piss play, and there's probably somebody watching this from work now going, well, I didn't know he was into piss play, you know, making little notes. They probably are, actually, to be fair. I have very recently discovered that that's come back again. I thought I'd lost that, and it turns out that actually I haven't. And I couldn't be happier about that. Most of the kink play that I feared I wouldn't be able to do anymore, I've learned how to do again. I think, you know, it makes such a difference, I think, playing with somebody that you trust. You know, if it's like a regular fuck buddy or, you know, whatever it is, if you have somebody that you can trust or that you get to know, it makes it easier to do these things again. I'm pleased to say that all of the kink play that I used to enjoy on drugs, it's all come back. It's taken a while because it is all about relearning. It really is. Everything about it, your brain just has to be rewired. But
for anyone listening to this, because this also goes out as an audio only, David's face is one big fucking smile when he's talking about this. So his brain is filthy and he's enjoying it.
Well, I've been promised, okay, before this weekend is out, I've been promised a bit of wet activity before I get them. I know. Quiet, you.
That's fucking hilarious.
I know. He's probably still sniffing my underwear, I should think. He seems to, every time he's here, he's always either sniffing my socks or sniffing my underwear whenever I walk into my bedroom. very disturbed, very naughty, I have to say.
You hating every moment of it, I'm sure.
Oh God, oh, it's awful. Oh, it's just painful. Oh, it's so difficult, Ralph. So difficult.
Well, on that note, we are actually coming to the end of the
Oh, good
interview.
Lord.
It's it's almost been an hour already. The time goes
I
quick
know.
getting into the
I know.
conversation.
It's like you were getting ever so rappy earlier when I was having my technical problems. I could see you going, what the fuck's going on? What the fuck is going on?
I'm
Who is
not
this?
very good at I'm never very good at hiding what's going on, especially because of my face is very expressive.
Do you know, there was one guy, I think he was on season 4. I forget who he was. But he had technical problems. And I could see your face. It was like going, oh, God. You know, all they've got to do is press a button, for God's
You're
sake.
calling me out now. Oh my God, you're calling me out. I'm not very good at hiding what's going on in my brain sometimes. No, it's perfectly fine. Whatever goes on in my face, ignore it. It is what it is. And we managed to do it in the end. And it's been absolutely wonderful to have you on. And I couldn't be more proud of what you've accomplished. And the fact that you are at the stage you're at now, and because we've had talks about this in the past, and your struggles and so on, and I couldn't be more proud of you. And I think I've said this to you before.
That means a lot
And
to me.
yeah. So, and I'm so happy you came on and you shared these deeply personal things with me. Because I think it's been probably a subject we haven't touched on, is this kind of non-consensual recording of other people. And I think this is consensual. I'm recording you, and it is consensual, and there will even be a release form afterwards.
This around it is consensual, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we say bye for now, if anyone has listened to this and they've listened to something you've said and they've really connected with it, or they have a question, or they've been affected by it, where can they get in contact with you?
You can do that via Instagram by either sending me a message or a friend's request. There is the LGBTQ Image Abuse Survivors website. There is a link to that on my Instagram bio. So if anybody wants to read more about that, or if you just quite literally want to find a resource that is specifically for the LGBTQ community and victims who have been and victims who have suffered from non-consensual image recording, you can find links to support sites as well to help you with that. I just wanted to say that without the work that you do, Ralph, and without all of the wonderful resources that you put together, and I know you put so much heart and love into doing these interviews, I don't think I would have been able to have fully discovered Clear Fetish Play without it. Your podcast with your past guests, they're so inspiring, and I would encourage anybody to go out there to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the YouTube channel that you have, and revisit those interviews, because I promise you folks that there will be something there that you will connect with, and you will think, you know, Christ, I thought I was the only person who felt this way about using drugs and the destruction that it brings. And you'll learn and discover that there are other people out there who have shared the same experiences and the same fears with rediscovering fetish with a clear head. you know, can I do it without drugs? Can I do it again? So thank you, Mister, for all of the fantastic work that you do, and long may you continue. Please don't.
Thank you very much, David. You're going to make me blush or start crying or something. I don't
I
know.
know you're going very red. You get very red.
Yeah. Oh God, it's making me all blushy now. This is like, I'm not very good with compliments, but thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming on. And now you have to go out to your boyfriend and say he has to piss on you.
I think he's outside the door now. I can see him scratching on the door, trying to get in to piss all over. So
okay, I'll let you go then, because that I think that's a really good one to end on. That you're gonna go and have some fun with your boyfriend.
Cheers, Ralph. You take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
So that was David. What a wonderful chat. Heartfelt. Serious. It's quite a serious topic we addressed today. So if anyone has watched this who's been triggered or flashbacked or whatever, he gave his details. It'll be linked in the description of the video, and also on Spotify and so on. I will also link the homepage he's talking about, and of course my DMs are always open. Unfortunately, this is the backup channel, so a lot of followers are not here, but I'm always open. Yeah, please do reach out if you need to, because this is something that needs to be talked more about. So I'm so glad David came on and talked to me about it. But for now, I'll sign off and go out and have fun responsibly, and have a good Saturday. Bye.